Welcome to The Authentic Space with me. I'm your host, Kyana. With over 22 years of experience helping people to grow and heal professionally, I'm not just here to talk. I'm here to teach you how to think deeper, choose wiser, and connect better. You ready? Let's go.
So today we're going to be talking about people pleasing. Listen, we done heard about people pleasing. People pleasing has been a topic of discussion for years. You understand this? But it's still a thing. I still have to help a lot of people process people pleasing, identify the origin, identify the symptoms, and identify ways that they can combat the thinking and the mindset that is created and that does not allow them to show up as their authentic self. So at the end of the day, let's get to it. So people pleasing is a survival strategy created by those of us who had to figure out how to get love. What I mean by that is, if you think about people pleasing, it is what we call a trauma reaction. So trauma is a distressing event that takes place, right? And so a trauma reaction is what is created as a result of our body experiencing trauma, a distressing event. Now, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who struggle with even acknowledging that they have experienced trauma. Because sometimes what people will do is have a mental construct of what trauma is, and it's limited. It's only based upon what they are able to acknowledge as trauma, right? So some people just think that trauma is not having two parents in a household. Trauma is going through abuse. Trauma is experiencing a car crash. Trauma is experiencing war, right? And so sometimes, a trauma experience may not be what your mind has conceived or came up with and allowed it to be. It can be something that you are saying is not a big deal, or you are saying it's not deep, but it is definitely a trauma experience which created a trauma reaction. And sometimes the one of the ways to be able to acknowledge or to become aware of if you have experienced trauma is if you have a trauma reaction. So if you struggle with people pleasing, for instance, if you struggle with perfectionism, if you struggle with anger outbursts, 9 times out of 10, you also have a trauma experience. Now, not every trauma experience will create a trauma reaction, right? But typically, most trauma reactions come as a result of a traumatic experience. And it's okay. It's not a good or a bad thing. It is a thing. It is what happens. It is the experience. It's reality. And so first and foremost, I know for myself, I had to be okay with learning about my trauma. And I also have to help a lot of people process and just accept the fact that they have experienced trauma. All right. So one of the things when you talk about people pleasing, like I said, we learn how to figure out how to get love. And so love ends up becoming this thing that is about approval. Right. So if we say that approval is how I get love, approval is also how I feel like I'm worth anything. So my worth is contingent on whether or not I get approval from others. So my worth is contingent on me making other people happy. We're talking about the people pleasing mindset, right? So if pleasing people and making people happy validates my worth, then disappointing people and not making people happy diminishes my worth, right? It makes me unworthy. It causes me not to have value based upon my thinking, not reality. It's not reality. It's just how our experiences end up creating our thinking. Because if we don't acknowledge what happened, we're not going to be able to acknowledge what was created as a result of what happened, right? So in me saying that, let me give you an example of me. I grew up in a household with a mother who struggled with addiction. Right. And so I'm thankful that I had a grandmother and I had an aunt who supported and stepped in a lot of areas as far as making sure that my needs were met, as far as my physical needs, like, clothing, housing, food, right? Those things were not met. But unfortunately, my needs such as belongingness and belonging, they were not met. And I never understood my worth. I didn't understand that Kyana was loved. I didn't understand how I was loved, right? Especially growing up as a child. And as a result of that, I had to create other ways to figure out my love, to figure out that I was lovable. And this is me as a child, right? Because remember, so if I'm telling you that my mother struggled with addiction, that means her emotions were all over the place, right? One minute she's happy, the next minute she's angry. One minute she's dancing, the next minute she's hitting me. I had no idea what to expect. And so I was always on alert. So when you're talking about hyper vigilant, that was Kyana, right? So now that I don't know if I'm worthy, I don't understand my worth. What I learned was that worth was in approval. So one particular time I remember I had a friend, and she was somebody who all the boys knew. All the boys knew her, but she wasn't somebody who had the freshest shoes or clothes. She wasn't somebody who had her hair done. She was just a regular person. Matter of fact, most times her hair wasn't done, but she still got attention from guys, and I never understood why. And then as all I knew is I wanted to get the attention she had, because I too didn't have the freshest sneakers back then. I too had my hair all over the place, for the most part. And I wanted to get that approval. I wanted to, when we would go places, guys would be like, "Oh, what's up, so-and-so? What's up, so?" They wasn't speaking to me, they were speaking to her. I was trying to figure out, well, what's she doing that I ain't doing? So once I figured out what she was doing that I wasn't doing, which was providing sexual favors for those boys, I had no idea. I was so young. I can't remember. It had to be, I can't remember how old I was, but I was very young. I was in single digits. You understand? I was in elementary school. And one day, it's amazing how certain situations can come up. One day, a guy approached us and said, "I'll give you money if you have sex with me." And I remember I stood up like with a badge, like, "Oh, I'll do it. Let's go." Because this is my opportunity to get approval. This is my opportunity for my worth to go up. Now, I am not intentionally thinking like this. I just know I want guys to speak to me. I want approval. I don't understand that it's actually connected to my worth. I don't get that until I start doing my work as an adult, right? Until I started to doing my work during my healing journey. So I follow him into this abandoned building because I'm about to get approved. I have no idea what this means, though. I have no idea what this is about, what I'm about to walk into. So I go into this building and he starts taking off his pants. So I'm like, wait a minute. I don't want to do all that. And he's like, what? You can't change your mind now. No take backs. I'm like, what? So he begins to pin me down. So he pushes me down and he's pinning me down on the ground. So he has my hands, my arms, and my shoulders pinned down, and he has his knees on my thighs. Each knee is on each of my thighs, holding me down. And now he's unbuckling my pants with his mouth. So I'm yelling, "Get off me, leave me alone." What's going on? I'm not understanding what's happening. I'm scared. I'm crying at this point. And listen, this was taking place in the 80s in Northwest DC. And I need y'all to understand why in 2025, Northwest DC has a lot of white people. But I'm telling you, in the 1980s, Northwest DC, in the neighborhoods where I was from, or am from, had no white people. But it had this white person. So this white man, I don't know where he came from, comes into the abandoned building. I'm crying. I'm trying to get this man off of me. And this guy shoots a shot in the air and says, "Get out my house." It terrified the guy. The guy runs out the house. I get up. I'm shaking. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I'm crying. I was able to butt my pants. Thankfully, nothing happened. But that experience in and of itself, as you can imagine, was very traumatic and very stressful. But remember, I'm actually coming from an environment where that wasn't the first time I experienced anything that had my heart feeling like that, because I had a mother who was addicted to drugs. So there was a lot of situations that I was already in that caused me to cry and shake and see my mother in situations that caused me to feel like I was going to lose my mother. So by the time I am experiencing this, as a result of me trying to obtain approval, I'm buckling my pants. I am moving. I go out. I don't remember what the white man is saying at this point. I don't remember him after this point. But as I'm going out, I notice some of my mother's friends coming up. And so I'm assuming this is what happened. You know, I've told the story so many times at this point. But I remember, I'm assuming when the guy came out, they probably like, what that dude running so fast for out their house? And then you see me come out crying. You like, he was trying to do something to Kyana. So then, boom, the two of the guys go chase after him. Then they say, Kyana, you okay? Come on, we're going to take you to your mother. Instantly, I start crying even more because now I'm thinking I am about to get in trouble. I am not happy that somebody is there, that somebody is supporting me, that's somebody, because I don't feel love in that moment. I just feel terrified because my mama is going to tear my tail up. We go, we finally get to my house. They tell my mother what happened. She did not react. She checked my body. She checked me out. Nothing happened. And my mother didn't have a conversation with me. My mother did not ask me what happened. My mother did not ask me to help her to understand what I was thinking to get into that moment. My mother checked me out. She said I was good. And then she told me to go in the living room. And I probably went in the living room and just looked at some cartoons or, play with my doll babies. We're talking about how do you get to the point of becoming a person who has people pleasing a mindset. And so for me, in that instance, that belief that my worth is based upon people's approval wasn't shattered. It wasn't challenged. Even though I went through that traumatic experience, it didn't take away the fact that I still felt like the only way to get my love was through people's approval. Right? So that's another thing that we have to understand. So even in bringing in that situation up, one of the ways that people pleasing can be created in people is if somebody has actually experienced molestation or they have experienced being sexually violated. With that, because if you think about that act, it is that person, the victim, being forced to do something to please another person. So what that can create in their mind is that they don't matter and other people needs matter. And if that is never challenged in them, when I mean challenged, if that mindset is not challenged, they go on thinking that they have to continue to live life in order for that not to happen, so that they have to keep that thought pattern going. They have to keep that thought pattern that my needs don't matter. Other people's needs matter more than me. So if you're somebody, not everybody who struggles with people pleasing has been a victim of sexual abuse, right? But what I'm saying is that's one of the ways that can create people pleasing. Another way, like I said before, overall, is if you feel like you were not loved as a child, right? Sometimes kids don't understand that they're worth anything because they only get attention if they do something good or if they do something positive. For instance, a child may not get attention for just being who they are. A parent might not just grab a child and just say, hey, I just love you for being you, right? But they typically will give a child attention if it's based upon them getting good grades, if it's based upon them playing on a sports team. That's why even for myself, one of the ways that I'm glad that I got a positive outlet on how to get approval and help my worth to stay up here, until I was able to learn that my worth is never in question, being called into question. Basketball became a way that I can get my approval, my worth staying up, where me being worthy is a thing, right? But unfortunately, because I started playing basketball, well, let me say not unfortunately, because fortunately, like I said, basketball was a great asset to my life. But what happened was I still never dealt with the fact that pleasing and approval meant I was worthy. So one particular time, this is another story. I remember having a teammate, and she was so cool to me. She was so cool. And I said, if I can just be like her, I can be cool and people will love me, people will like me, and that will mean I will be a worthy individual. Now, of course, I'm not using worth at all. I don't even understand. I don't even know what worth is at this point. So one particular time we are on a bus, right? And out of nowhere, she pulls out some weed, and they started smoking weed. So I never smoked weed before at this point. And the only time that I did smoke weed, and it wasn't weed, I'm going to tell you this. The one time that I did smoke grass was I was looking at a music video, and they was talking about smoking grass. So I said, I got grass outside in the yard. I got grass. I got a paper bag. I can tear off a piece of paper bag, brown paper bag, and just put some grass in it, roll it up, and I'm going to be smoking some grass, baby. Let's get it. Not knowing, honey, that I'm not going to be smoking weed. But again, when there's nobody parenting me, I'm coming up with this stuff myself. So boom, I go in the backyard, light it up, smoking the grass, nothing's happening. So by the time they are like, let's smoke some weed, I'm like, I've been there, done that, baby. Come on, let's get it. I smoked the weed, but again, I don't know what I'm doing. So the first time I take a puff, it's simply a puff. So I take it, they laugh, they like, nah, that's not how you do it. So they told me what to do. I ain't gonna sit here and teach nobody how to smoke marijuana. Just say they told me what to do. So when I took that inhale, honey, my nose, my eyes, I started choking. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I was like standing up, coughing. They started cracking up. They started laughing. And because I love my Black people, I love my people. But you know, when we laugh, we just don't laugh. It's a whole thing. They falling on the floor. We on a bus though. We on a metro bus. One girl runs through the bus because she's laughing. Because you know, when we laugh, we run. And now remember, I'm doing this so they can like me. I'm doing this so they can approve of me. So my worth can be here. So by the time I'm doing this and they laughing and making fun of me as they're doing this, my worth is going down because their approval of me is going down. Right. So I'm like, how in the world do I continue? What do I do? Because now I'm embarrassed. Now I can't tell my mama about this. I can't tell anybody about this. But now I also have to come up with what I understand about that situation. And the only thing I understand about that situation is this wasn't for me, and I got to figure out how to please people in another type of way. Listen, I'm trying to tell you, it's so many things that a kid can go through in life when there's not somebody who is helping them to think intentionally, right? To behave intentionally and giving them an understanding of why they are doing what they're doing. One of the ways that I realized to being a people pleaser is that I always had to show up as the nice person, right? So showing up as the nice person meant that I was never upset. I was never sad. I was never going through anything. I was happy. I was making people happy. And as a result of making other people happy, making other people smile, they smiled and they validated me. So again, because of that, my worth was here. My worth I stayed worthy. Unfortunately, though, what that created in me was I couldn't show up as my authentic self. I had to always show up as the nice person, regardless of what I was feeling inside. So on the days that I felt bad, on the days that I felt irritated, when I felt like somebody disrespected me, or I felt like somebody was trying to embarrass me, because you talking about conflict. People pleasing, people who struggle with people pleasing, baby, we don't deal with no conflict. Because to be in conflict with you may cause you not to like me, may cause you not to want to be my friend. And if you don't like me and you don't be my friend, that actually starts to get you are, you are dissatisfied with me. And the more you are dissatisfied with me, the more my worth goes down. I don't deal with no conflict. But again, I can't show up as my authentic self. And that was exhausting because, again, I wanted to just be quiet. But instead of being quiet, I had to make people laugh. Instead of just being regular, I had to make sure I had a smile on, because I had to make sure that my worth was always being validated by somebody else, because external validation and making people happy was a determination of my worth. Now, we know the reality of that is not true. But if you're never taught anything different, we will continuously do the same thing over and over again until we learn something different. Make sense? So now I understand this. This is what's happening. So now I decide I want to go and I want to support. I want to support other people, and I want to get my master's in counseling. Now, I had already been helping people. I was working with community organizations, nonprofit organizations. By this time, I decided to go back to school. So I started to working as a community support worker. So I was helping people, but I still wasn't aware of my own people pleasing, because again, in a helping field, that's why therapists and, psychologists and people who help people, you got to be very careful, because again, helping people makes people like you. And it's about being there for you. And I mean, being there for other people and being nice. And when you are nice, people give you praise. When you get praise, you feel approved. And when you approve, your worth is here, right? So I went to school. I'm now going to school, and then I started therapy, because one of the things that they told us in school, if you want to counsel people, it might be a good idea for you to understand what it feels like to be a client, and to see that perspective. This is see life from that perspective. I thought that was a good idea. And so I started therapy, but I also started therapy too, because in that year I had broken up with my boyfriend, who I thought I was going to marry. And I had also lost my best friend, who I had a business with at the time. So baby, I needed therapy. So by the time they suggested that, and I'm going through that equals therapy. Let's go. Right. So now I'm going to therapy, and I'm in school, and I'm at the end of my program where we're doing the internship. And my professor says, my professor says, we went through a personality test, and mine came out for me being a pleaser. So I was like, I was wearing my pleaser as a badge of honor, because I'm like, I'm a good hearted person. I'm a kind hearted person. I'm a nice person. I was wearing it as a badge of honor. So when it came to me, because it was a small class, my professor was like, Kyana, you say you are people please. You please. It wasn't people pleasing. He was like, you say you please people because you are a nice person. He said, this is actually telling me that you please people because you want to control people's perceptions of you, because it seems like you need people to perceive you as a nice person in order that you are a good person. Honey, when he said that, my heart sank. On the inside, I was like, no, right? But on the outside, you remember, because, I told you, can't let them see me sweat, because then you ain't going to like me, and you going to take your approval away from me. And when he is saying this, I am like distraught, but I'm trying to keep it together. And he broke it down. And let me tell you something. I went in that car, I cried my little eyes out, because by this time I did understand the importance of taking what somebody says and seeing if it applied to me. And baby, that applied to me. I went back to my therapist. We started doing the work. And I said, I no longer can have my worth connected to people's approval of me. And that's the important thing to do when you struggle with people pleasing. Like, there are some people who, because approval is so big and it's connected to their worth, there are some people who their body, especially, let's talk about some women, their body brings them approval. So you think about thirst trap pictures, and you think about showing your body in a certain type of way. Now, I'm not saying everybody who does this is looking for approval, but what happens is when you do these things, you don't understand that you are doing these things in order to get approval so that people can approve you, like you, and validate your worth, right? My goal is to help you to intentionally think, intentionally behave. The goal is to check your behaviors. Why am I doing this? And you're asking yourself why, not for judgment. You're not judging yourself saying, why are you even people pleasing? Why do you even care about that? The goal is not to judge yourself for what you're doing. The goal is to see what you're doing, to see if you need to change what you're doing, to see how you're thinking, to see if you need to change how you are thinking. Right? So that individual who can't say no, the reason why you cannot say no is because you cannot jeopardize your approval from other people. You have to be the good person. You have to be the nice person, because that's how you get your approval. So if you say no, your approval goes down. If you don't show up, if you don't go to the party, if you don't go to this or that, it says people will be disappointed in you and people won't like you anymore. Right? Now, another thing that happens with people who struggle with people pleasing is that, and this is something that is not talked about, it creates an entitlement in people who struggle with people pleasing. What I mean by that is, because when you are pleasing, you're constantly sacrificing. You're constantly putting your own needs to the back burner, right? Because remember, your needs don't matter. Everybody else's needs matter. And I need their approval of me, so I have to constantly show up for them. In turn, that creates an entitlement in a people pleaser, because you think that people should be doing this too. See, sometimes people pleaser believe that this is a normal way of thinking and everybody thinks this way, and they don't. The person who struggles with people pleasing, a people pleasing mindset, they will not like a person who has boundaries. See, there's a difference between being kind and being nice. See, being nice is more of a personality trait. Being kind is more of a character trait. Being kind says that I can have boundaries and I matter too. Typically, being nice is more about how a person shows up, right? And being kind, I can show up for you in certain situations when it makes sense for me. For instance, if somebody asks me for money, but I don't have it to give to them, and I tell them no, because that's where I'm at right now. I don't have it to give to them. I can be kind and still say no if I had the money, but I don't want to give the money for my own standards as to why I give people money, right? What if I decide not to give people money depending on how they deal with their own finances? You don't get to squander your money and then come try to spend mine. I get to have that and still not be selfish. I can still be kind and have that boundary up. Being nice and being a person who struggles with people pleasing, you can't say no. You can't have a boundary up, because having a boundary up means you're selfish. If you're selfish, you're not being accepted. If you're not being accepted, that means you're not worthy of love. And I want you guys to understand that your worth is never being called into question, right? Another thing is, when it comes down to people pleasing, is to figure out your motives. Why are you doing something? Whatever that thing is. Why are you posting that picture? Why are you going to that event? Why are you doing this for your kids? Why are you doing this for your spouse? Why are you doing this for your parents? If guilt is involved in that, making decisions out of guilt is typically an indicator that you're doing stuff out of a need to please. You're doing stuff out of a need to be accepted, right? And it's okay for people not to accept you, because people get an opportunity to tell you no. People have the opportunity to say, to not like you without it meaning your worth. And that's okay. Right. And so one of the ways that you can start to move away from people pleasing thinking and a people pleasing mindset is to practice identifying in yourself the moments and the times that you are actually acting out of people pleasing. When you recognize that you're doing things because you want people's approval, or you are not doing things because you are afraid of people disapproving of you, right? Sometimes people don't participate in activities because they are afraid of being talked about. They are afraid of being embarrassed because they are afraid of rejection, any type of rejection. People who struggle with people pleasing can't deal with rejection. You know, if somebody has low self-esteem, low self-worth, they can't take another hit on their worth, especially if they don't feel like they themselves are worthy. Because somebody else rejecting them is just providing confirmation on their own thinking and their own thought of that they're not worthy, right? So begin to identify your actions. Remember, I want to help you learn how to intentionally think. I want to help you learn how to intentionally behave in ways that is allowing you to become the person that you could be proud of. One of the things that I want people to get to the point to say, if somebody had to talk about me on social media, if my child had to talk about me, my spouse had to talk about me, my best friend had to talk about me, would I be proud of what they say? If I had to talk about myself because of who I am showing up authentically to be, would I be proud of the person I would talk about? Or would I be so disappointed because I wasn't being 100% Kyana, right? I need you to understand that who you are is beautiful, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. When we learn that things are not serving us, we have the opportunity to change it. Once we acknowledge it and see that it's not serving us, we have the opportunity to choose something else. We're not stuck in a jail. At one point, I thought people pleasing, because I didn't identify it as that. I labeled it being nice, right? So first I had to change the label that I had on it, because I changed it to a more acceptable label by just saying, I'm just a nice person. I'm just nice. But I used to wear it as a badge of honor. And then I had to realize I didn't have a badge of honor on. I had a jail suit on. I was in a prison because I wasn't able to be myself. I was so confined to how other people perceive me that I couldn't worry about or even conceptualize how I perceived myself. Now, the goal and how I live life, and I try my best to continuously live this way, is I show up as Kyana. If I offend you, as long as I'm not being disrespectful, right? As long as I'm not being hurtful, right? Then I have to give you space to be disappointed in me, because sometimes I'm not going to be able to do everything you want me to do. Disappointment is not a bad thing. If I want my friend to go to the movies with me and they decide not to go, I'm going to be disappointed. But that doesn't mean my friend was being mean or my friend does not love me. It simply means that they could not go or they did not want to go. It's that specific situation that does not reflect my friend's overall love for me. Right? So hopefully this helped. Listen, this is the type of information that I love to look at with my friends, or after I look at it, they look at it, we discuss it, because I not only want to grow, I want my friends to grow. And a lot of times when my friends look at something, they give a different perspective on it, or they give a perspective that I don't come up with, because we are two different people. We are different people and having different perspectives. So go ahead, share this with your friends and your family. And if it fits for you, it fits for you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Eat the meat, throw away the bones. DM me, comment, share, like, tell me what you thought of it. If you didn't like it, you could tell me that too, because it's not going to impact my worth, baby. Now, I may be disappointed, and I get to be, but that means nothing for your worth, and that means nothing to my worth. It's just giving you the opportunity to say no and me the opportunity to feel disappointed and move on. with life. So I appreciate you all listening. So I want you to go take off those jail suits and be who you are called to be in this space. So I want you to take care of your heart, take care of your mind, most importantly, take care of yourself. See you next time.
The content shared on The Authentic Space with Kyana is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for therapy or mental health advice. Although I am a licensed clinical professional counselor, listening to this podcast does not create a therapeutic relationship. If you are in need of mental health support, please reach out to a licensed professional in your area. And remember, you are worthy of support, healing, and wholeness.